Good morning. It's McCollum on Business, Thursday edition. We're coming to you with a morning show here. As that we try another morning show here this week on this Thursday. Of course, every Tuesday we come to you at 7 a.m. with a morning show. Great success with it. I know viewers are happy with it and everything. So we thought we'd do a Thursday one here this week as well. So I appreciate you joining me, whether it's live or on demand here at Robat TV or the YouTube page or wherever you find us out there. We appreciate it. Share us with your friends, if you would. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world this morning. We're getting into, big numbers and reporting timeframes, right? Earnings news out there, market, it's just kind of weighing that economic and earnings news that's coming out. We've had some sell-offs the last couple of days, so we'll see what the futures are doing here in just a minute. Of course, we look at the market watch, stocks we're paying attention to, national and local stories that you need to know as well. This morning, and I tell you what, this morning I got a treat for you. Stick with us, last show of the show here. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can get yourself some free Krispy Kreme donuts here coming up, but you got to act tomorrow, Friday the 13th. I'll tell you more about that coming up. But first, let's get into that market watch. So, of course, market opens at 7:30 in the morning here, Phoenix time. But right now, you see Dow futures are up so far today. The Dow Jones futures, well, it's up 151 points right now. The S&P futures are up 20 points. As we look at it, unfortunately, our NASDAQ link with the company we use, the link is broken. They're trying to figure out what's going on with it, but the NASDAQ is up 107 points in their futures as well. Here today, the Russell 2K, well, it's up 20 points for its futures here before the market opens. And we're, about 27 minutes away from the market opening. And then there's Bitcoin. Yes, folks, still below the 70,000 level. Did come up from the 66,000 yesterday that it was at when we did the show at 11 o'clock. 67,990 for Bitcoin here today. And as I said, just the market's just trying to figure out, all the economic news out there. We did get a report today breaking right now. Tariff revenue has soared more than 300% as well. Of course, we're still waiting for that Supreme Court decision on if tariffs are legal or not. But tariff revenue, 300% up here to begin this year as well. Stocks we're paying attention to right now. Well, first one we're going to look at is a company called Restaurant Brands. This is the parent company of Burger King. Out there, it finished yesterday 0.64% up is where it ended up yesterday and trading on Wednesday. Well, in pre-market trading here today, it's up 1.3% here this morning. And it's all because they beat the top and bottom lines on their numbers, which is interesting, right? Because we know McDonald's and other fast food places have struggled because that's why they're coming out with value meals and things to that effect. Restaurant Brands reported fourth quarter earnings at 96 cents per share. The estimate was 95 cents as well. Revenue came in at $2.47 billion, which did beat the estimate out there of $2.41 billion as well for them. Now, restaurants, the Burger King restaurants fueled the sales growth here for this company as well. And like I said, the reason why that catches your eye, we always hear McDonald's, the other big fast food restaurants are struggling to make the money and get people into the restaurants as people are fleeing them as the prices have gone up. Well, Burger King restaurants fuel that sales growth there. So that's why we're looking at Restaurant Brands this morning. In pre-market trading, it's up 1.3% as of right now. Anheuser-Busch InBev is the next stock we're going to look at here as well. You're going to see a theme here in these first stocks we look at. A lot of food, beverage type stocks there. Finished yesterday 2.03% up. And then you see with that gray line on the right, if you're watching us here, up here in pre-market trading as well. It's trading right now at 2.6% on the pre-market trading side. So Anheuser-Busch InBev reported earnings of 95 cents per share. The analyst expectation was only 90 cents per share. So kind of 5-cent improvement there for them. Its revenue did come in and top the estimate as well. The revenue was $15.56 billion. Well, the estimate was $14.95 billion as well. So big money here for Anheuser-Busch moving into this quarter. That's why they finished yesterday 2.03% up. They announced their numbers overnight, and boom, 2.6% up here in the pre-market trading for Anheuser-Busch as well. Of course, you know them, obviously, Anheuser, but they have all the other brands out there, like, just filled with brands, Bud Light, Ultra, a lot of brands out there in this portfolio doing well out there. So that's why we're looking at them here today. And then finally, we're going to look at Magnum Ice Cream. And I know a lot of people are going to go, Magnum Ice Cream? Never heard of that company. Well, it's because this is the break-off company, the spin-off ice cream company, basically, that came off of Unilever. Ben and Jerry's ice cream, for instance, as this one. Remember the Ben and Jerry's big fight where they didn't like Unilever once they signed to them? This is the break-off company here, Magnum Ice Cream. They have a bunch of brands under them as well. So they finished yesterday 3.44% up when the market closed. And you see the big drop-off after that. In pre-market trading here, they're down 14% right now after yesterday's numbers. And why? Well, it was their first earnings results since they became a spinoff company from Unilever. And they didn't have good numbers here in their first report. They reported an earnings and revenue miss for fiscal year 2025. And the reason being weaker than expected growth in sales for their brands out there as well. So a huge down here today for this Magnum stock as well. For them. And like I said, pre-market here trading 14% down right now. Obviously, Ben and Jerry's is probably the one you know the most. Obviously, they do Magnum ice cream as well. They do Walls ice cream. They do Cornetto. They do Cordier. Breyers is under this umbrella also. Klondike bars and Klondike ice cream is there as well. Talenti. And then another one called Yasso Ice Cream is all underneath this Magnum ice cream brand that was spun off from Unilever. Disappointing sales here leads to 14% down here in pre-market trading here today for this new company and their first time reporting here on the market. When we come back later on and look at the stock market, we're going to look at the stocks in the memory storage stocks category. We know there's a shortage in memory stocks out there for computers, all due to the data center driven on why those shortages are happening. So we're going to look into those stocks. It's not a shocker if you follow this show at all here over the last 4 or 5 months. You know these stocks are going up and through the roof here. Nothing's different today. So we'll talk more about that coming up as well. But first, let's get into some stories that you need to know this morning as you're getting ready for work. And, we had the job list. The non-farm payroll report came out yesterday. It was a delayed report that came out from the government because of that partial government shutdown. And we told you January had a big bump in job claims, but they also revised their numbers for 2025, and we got the results there. As you dig into this report that came out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we now know the U.S. economy experienced basically, in terms of percentages and everything, zero job growth in 2025. Yeah, this is all based off of that revised data. And preliminary data, well, it had actually indicated that the U.S. economy added 584,000 jobs last year. If you don't know how it works, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they get their initial numbers, like even January, initial numbers. They do some more data-driven stuff, and then they can revise the number a month or so later. So they did all that. They received additional state data and found that the labor market as a whole had only added 181,000 jobs in all of 2025 once they got their additional reporting. That is basically a non-job creation market out there. And this is a big number because in 2024, well, the U.S. added 1.46 million jobs in 2024. So that's a big drop-off in terms of jobs added in the economy. Hiring did pick up, though, in January, as we told you yesterday. Hiring increased by 130,000 roles. The estimate was only 55,000 additional jobs out there, so they blew that number out of the water. Now we'll have to see what the revision is here coming up. But 2025, we have our final numbers there in terms of the job side. It's a bleak hiring side, as we know, right? Everybody has deemed this the no hire, no fire economy here for the last several months out there. So not a surprise that it's happened. It's just seeing those numbers is kind of staggering, especially coming off that 1.2 or that over a million job growth in 2024 as well. And all the talk right now, right? Trump RX came out and opened up, and we know President Trump is telling basically pharmaceutical companies to lower their prices for U.S. people. We pay a higher amount than other nations out there. We know that's going on in publicly, also behind the scenes. But an interesting story here because, not very many pharmaceutical companies were contacted by the administration. So some of the pharmaceutical companies that weren't targeted and sent letters by the president and his administration, and like I said, this is all about the agreements to lower U.S. drug pricing. Well, the company's not contacted. They're looking to craft their own deals because they're trying to avoid those, tariffs that were threatened if you're not manufacturing in America, things to that effect. And the new price setting schemes that could come out and be forced on them from the government side. So we do know through some sources out there that companies have begun reaching out to contacts of the White House, but not only that, but the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and they're all trying to create their own deals since nobody contacted them out there. These companies are specifically concerned with the new pilot programs that could see prices for Medicare drugs in large parts of the country, get slashed in pricing quickly. And they want to have a say in it, right? These programs would require manufacturer rebates for drugs paid for the Medicare health plan. But, and obviously that's millions of Americans over 65 years old and everything. And they want, these rebates are going to happen if the US prices are higher than the international levels out there. These companies want to say in their pricing as opposed to just having the government thing it. So I looked it up here. 16 drug makers, and these are all the largest ones, 16 of the largest. So this would include Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, those companies. They've already struck deals with the government after receiving these letters from the Trump administration. If you remember, they pretty much said cut your prices down to the lowest levels that you charge international places out there. Many companies, though, obviously, if only 16 were contacted, that means there's a lot of companies out there, including half of those represented by the largest pharmaceutical lobby group out there, which is that Pharma, PHRMA. They haven't been contacted by the administration, so they're looking to do their own deals out there to further drive down those drug costs. So if you're not part of those first 16 companies and prices dropping that we've read all about, Trump RX, other cuts and stuff, maybe your drug will be able to get into that process as well, and they're working on it behind the scenes. That's a nice little follow up here early in the morning, and this doesn't have anything to do other than delicious ketchup, delicious macaroni and cheese, right, and stuff like that. So in terms of no, that's not going to be affected how that comes out, but in an age where all these big conglomerate companies like GE broke up into several different companies as well. Honeywell is breaking up into several different companies here coming up. Well, Kraft Heinz, they were in the process of breaking into two separate companies, but now they're putting that on ice here to break up the company. They have a new CEO, and that new CEO said that Kraft Heinz challenges are fixable and within their control. So now they are shifting their focus toward reigniting profitable growth and also a $600 million investment push into the company as a whole. So specifically, their CEO, Steve Cahillane, I apologize, sir, if I said it wrong. He said that instead of splitting up, the company will double down on rebuilding growth. They're going to back up that growth with a massive investment in the brand's marketing, sales, and research and development moving forward. If you don't remember, back in September, October timeframe, the board of directors approved a plan to split Kraft Heinz into two independent, publicly traded companies. Now that they want to do it for a tax-free spinoff is what they're looking for, but the aim was to create two focused companies with less complexity than that would be able to maximize their brands and even boost profitability for those brands. What happens is these brands get so big that they kind of just stop neglecting certain parts of the brand or they get hidden in certain parts of the brand. So how do you promote ketchup and mac and cheese at the same time when it's two completely different areas of it? And these companies tend to struggle with that, and profitability at least is viewed as being less from that side. They were going to split into two businesses. One was going to be called Global Taste Elevation. That was going to be the one with Heinz, Philadelphia, for the cream cheese and stuff, and Kraft mac and cheese were going to be under that level. The other company that's now on scrap, North American Grocery is what it was going to be called. It was going to oversee Oscar Mayer, Kraft Singles, and even Lunchables on that side of the deal. The other problem they have is they have brands like Lunchables that are taking some serious heat right now because I'm going to use the term fake food, and people aren't buying them as much. So they're having problems marketing and selling those types of products as those sales are down. But the new CEO of Kraft Heinz came in and said, you know what, we're going to keep it as one company and we're going to invest in our growth here moving up. So, one example of a company, a big conglomerate, not breaking up, like we're seeing a lot out there with these bigger companies. So, it's going to be interesting to see which is the right way to go. I think GE's proven it was right for them to break up into their individual categories. We'll have to see if Honeywell works out or if Kraft can continue their growth there by staying together as well. And this story caught my eye because would you invest in 100-year bond? It doesn't mature for 100 years. So even if you invest in that when you're 1 years old, you have to live to 101 to see that maturity. And most of us obviously don't invest when we're 1 years old out there, right? And bonds are very important for companies to raise money. It can companies can either sell stock or sell bonds in order to raise money to fund their growth or capital expenditures out there. And so everybody chooses. Well, this week Google they went the bond route, right? They decided to go with the bonds. Boy, did they open eyes and a lot of questions with their choice out there. Alphabet on Tuesday they issued an extremely rare corporate bond that matures 100 years from now. Yes, they need the money, and I'll tell you why here in a second. You go, wait, Alphabet needs money? They do. I'll tell you why in a second here. But part of the multi-billion-dollar borrowing spree that Alphabet is undertaking, because it's all trying to fuel that artificial intelligence ambitions that they have out there with those capital expenditures. 100-year bond, folks. It will not mature. You cannot get your money out for 100 years out there. So get this, Google, right? It's a $4 trillion. I think they went to the $4 trillion cap here recently. They have more than $73 billion in free cash flow annually. Yes. So they're moving to the debt markets, which is the bonds there, to raise more money. Google has $126 billion cash on hand right now. And they're starting to, they're starting to get into this AI contributions. Like for instance, they said they plan to double its AI spending this year. So they want to spend $185 billion just in AI capital spending this year. They have $126 billion of cash on hand, $73 billion roughly in free cash flow annually. So even big companies like Google, are hitting this money side. So they went to this 100-year bond, which is interesting. Now, I was thinking about it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe you want to put some money away and, your kids, right? Your grandchildren, maybe your kids, get this and maybe it can work out for them in the future. But 100-year bonds, like how often do they work out? How often is this done by companies? Governments do 100-year bonds because governments generally don't topple here in the United States in 100 years. Right? Municipalities, those types of places do 100-year bonds quite frequently. Companies aren't very frequently that do this, though. And a lot of reasons. Companies don't tend to last forever. One, they don't stay as popular forever, right? We got a couple examples for you coming up here on ones that have done 100-year bonds and quickly got toppled in that. So obviously, a lot of reasons why you don't do 100-year bonds. People don't live that long. If you do live to outlong the maturing of the bond, well, you're pretty old and can enjoy the money at the other end as well. So if you're, so like I said, if you're buying a 100-year bond today, you're not going to be around to see it mature. But now, do you want to leave it for your kids, grandkids? Kind of the question. But the issue is, other companies have issued 100-year bonds and it hasn't worked out. It hasn't been a good side of it. I tried to find a company where it did work out. Well, sort of worked out is what we'll get to. IBM had issued a 100-year bond back in 1996. IBM, was dominant going into, the 90s, 80s, 90s and everything. And their dominance of that tech scene, well, you just thought they'd always be around. Well, after they issued that 100-year bond, you saw Microsoft, Apple starting to come along and chip away at IBM's, market leader status, and they eventually overtook them moving forward. IBM is still paying that debt technically, but obviously it's a little bit different now moving forward as with that money and something happened to IBM, right? But I mean, J.C. Penney's a complete failure option here for these bonds. They sold $500 million of their century bonds in 1997. Yeah, those bonds later on would go and sell for 23 cents. I think it was 23 cents on the dollar, but it might have been less than that. 23 years later, because of course, if you know, J.C. Penney's filed for bankruptcy just several years later from that side is what you're looking at. So there isn't a long-term success here. Just because Alphabet is in a dominant position today as a company, is there a new tech that's going to come along and knock them down a little bit? Things to that effect is kind of the question you got to worry about on that 100 deal. So interesting 100-year bond. Are you interested in that concept? I have no faith that Google will be around in 100 years in its current form. Like they could get sold off or something to that effect. But these companies come and go. Just look how often tech companies, especially, come and go. But interesting 100-year bond theory there on how it'll work as we go. And folks, we speaking of technology, we finally found out why TikTok, when the ownership transferred to the Americanized version of it now from the ByteDance controlling interests from China, when that happened, some terms changed in TikTok. We told you about it here at McCollum on Business, and now we know why they changed it to where they changed it around the geo, you reporting your location to them. And they wanted authorization to do it, and they wouldn't tell you why then, but now we know. TikTok said yesterday that it's rolling out a new local feed. It's going to show videos from nearby businesses and services based off of your phone's precise geolocation data. Users of TikTok, well, you'll now see a new tab on your app called Local. It'll lead to content related to nearby travel, events, restaurants, obviously, shopping, as well as posts from local creators as well. So maybe you get out of the national coverage here if you're a TikToker, and you can get into more local windows and become local famous, TikTok famous. The local tab won't appear in accounts owned by people younger than 18. Because that was my first thought was, man, under 18 and you're going to let them, that's too close of strangers that they could be in contact with. But they won't be on it for people younger than 18. Those that have a private account, or if you set your privacy setting to friends or only you won't get access to this local site as well. So obviously it's rolling out here now. And if you remember, we told you about it here back in January. TikTok had a lot of negativity here when it updated its privacy policy on the day that the Americanized version of the company took over. And it said their privacy thing said it may collect precise location information from users' devices if they enable location services in their device settings. Obviously raised a lot of concerns out there because a lot of users, were not happy with such data collection and they called it invasive. TikTok terms did note that people could turn off geolocation tracking in their settings. Like you're not required to do it. You have to give them approval to do it out there. So on Wednesday, TikTok did emphasize that sharing geolocation data is voluntary, that other apps rely on similar information about their users, and they're not wrong. Anytime you turn on your location, make no mistake on what they are doing out there. So interesting little thing there for TikTok. My first thought was for the kids, right? Kids, okay, so I'm in Phoenix, for instance. I don't necessarily want my kids to see some creators and stuff like that from adults in that Phoenix area. A little close for comfort there on that communication, knowing that they're close to that local thing. But not at least that they say it won't be on under 18 accounts out there. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that as parents, right? Moving forward. And when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we'll take a look at those Dow futures again, or the futures in general. Market opens here in about 5 minutes here this morning. And all indications are it's going to open up here. So we'll have to pay attention to that as it opens at 7:30. Local, national stories. And don't forget, tomorrow's Friday the 13th. You want some good luck out there? Well, you like Krispy Kreme donuts? You want free ones? Who doesn't like free donuts? Well, stay tuned. I got that story coming for you and how you can get some free donuts coming up here from Krispy Kreme. Come on back, folks. Got the important stories coming your way. McCollum on Business in the morning. And we're back here, McCollum on business for the morning time here on this Thursday. Appreciate you joining us live. We see you out there watching us. And of course, on demand here coming up. You can catch us here, Robat TV. As soon as we're done here, we'll get it uploaded to posted, I should say, on Robat TV for on demand. Of course, it goes up also on our YouTube page for our production company for TME Media out there. It's on YouTube for free as well. No podcast for this show out there. We did start the 2026 season here of racing with the pit stop yesterday. Posted yesterday about 2 o'clock on Robat TV, as well as on the YouTube page and the free podcasting systems, Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, all of them out there. I'm probably forgetting a couple. That's up as well right now. The debuts, we get you set up for the Daytona 500 this weekend. Made my choices at the end as well. So debut, pit stop yesterday for racing fans. Follow me at the Pit Stop Talk on X as well. That's the social media feed out there for the racing side of it. Even if you're not a racing fan, but you enjoy what we do here, just go ahead and hit the follow on that. You can mute it if you want. Just to get us out there into the zeitgeist of the world. Follow the YouTube page as well. Has all of our production shows here on that as well. The Real Matrix coming up tomorrow morning, Friday morning, 10 o'clock. New episode hits Robat TV at 10 o'clock. And on the podcast system at noon. And new thing for that as well is we kind of had to take it off of YouTube. Some of the subjects YouTube didn't necessarily agree with, but we moved them over to Rumble. Rumble.com is where you can find it. Rumble.com/user/TME Media, and it comes right up for you there. For the Real Matrix, if you want to watch it on demand, share it with your friends out there as well. The Angry Patriot would appreciate it, as he just wants you to come into that show with an open mind. Noon on Rumble, noon on the podcast systems as well. 10 o'clock here, Fridays on Robat TV. Of course, as soon as we're done here as well, we get right into the main event, 8 to 10 a.m. today. Dale joins me for the beginning of the show, 17-year NFL veteran. He takes off and goes and does his radio hits over there at the other place. And then we get Uncle Lou in today. No UFC this week. The football's over. Well, what are we going to talk about with Lou? Well, he's college baseball, hockey, which is right in the middle of the Olympics. We'll have some Olympic talk as well. Sometimes it's good to have Lou on and just kind of decompress from the UFC and the other stuff that he does out there. It's going to be a fun show here today, live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV, and then on demand on both Robat TV, the YouTube channel, and the free podcast system. At TME Sports Show is where you follow social media and the podcast systems there for the main event as well. So I appreciate you guys' support here. We all do. Kobe, Riley, me, Ethan, all appreciate your support. But I know you know what you guys really here for this morning, and that's the Market Watch. And all the futures markets are opening right now. These are still future numbers that we see here as it takes a few minutes for it to update through the systems. Dow futures right now are up 251 points right now for the Dow futures. S&P futures are up 21 points as we look at that. NASDAQ futures are up 84 points right now. The Russell 2K, those futures are up 14 points here as the market is opening as we speak. Bitcoin still under 70,000, 68,038 right now for Bitcoin. Just what is the cryptocurrencies going to do? They kind of have a choice now. Well, three choices, right? Stay where they are. This is a new base level. Start climbing again or continue their fall down in the cryptocurrency side of things as well. So markets opening up here. We'll keep an eye on. It's going to open on the upside, so I'm not worried about that, I don't think. As we move forward. Stocks we're paying attention to right now, we're going to look at memory storage stocks. First one we're going to look at is SanDisk out there. I can just tell you this, shares of the memory share stocks, well, they've been up all year, and they're continuing up as well. The futures here are the gray parts of this. You can see yesterday they closed at 10.65%. They're up more than 6% here in pre-market trading as well for SanDisk. Next one we're going to look at is Seagate Technology. Same concept here. It's up in pre-market trading about 3%. Closed yesterday 2.78% up for them as well. The last stock we're going to show you the graph on here, Western Digital, is up about 3% up in pre-market trading as well today. after even closing 4.26% down, or excuse me, up yesterday as well. Micron Technology, no graph here, is up at 3% in pre-market trading as well. These stocks have been up for 2026. They were up at the end of 2025. There's a shortage in memory stocks with the data centers buying them all up, and that's going to continue to be a shortage coming to where it's going to affect cell phone making and all of those effects out there. This movement here, though, well, companies are starting to talk about the shortages and how it's going to affect their profitability. These moves here in pre-market trading is based off of Cisco. That company came out and they specifically pointed to and said rising memory costs are a problem, and they did that in their latest earnings results as well. Cisco said these memory costs, because of the shortages and how pricing's going up, they said the memory cost shortages are going to adversely affect its profits moving forward as well. So we've seen a couple companies say that. So obviously that's good news for these memory stock storage stock companies because that means more profitability for them if their prices go up. Bad news for everybody else out there. You have choices: eat the cost increases, and keep running down or raise prices. I'm not sure which is the better option there for consumers, right? As we are looking at that. So memory stocks up today based off of all of that information as well. And it's an interesting time here with these shortages that we are dealing with and seeing how these companies are going to run under that side. Let's get into some local stories here, right? We all know pennies are no longer in production. Doesn't mean they're outlawed, doesn't mean anything. It just means people are running out of pennies because you can't get them as freely now, even though there's a cajillion pennies laying around out there. Companies, restaurants, stores, etc., are having a hard time getting them. Well, state lawmakers, they want to make changes on the government side of things because if you pay cash now, you can get shorted pennies. You can get, your amount could move. You might get shorted 2 pennies on a bill, which is your money, right? And the store's keeping that 2 pennies. And if you think about it, 1,000 people leave 2 pennies behind. That turns into some decent coin there for the stores to get some profits, right? But state lawmakers, they're trying to move and set standards here and rules for what happens if you have to round up on the penny side of things. So SB 1108 is out there, and if it becomes law, what they're going to do is it means cash paying customers, well, they'll end up paying a little bit less, or you could pay a little bit more. I know that's kind of vague there, right? It just depends how it rounds. So new pennies last November stopped being made there, and now you've seen it. I saw it almost instantly, like at McDonald's, for instance. They had signs up pretty much like a week after they stopped minting coins and everything. As you know, pennies cost more than what they're worth to make them. About 3.7 cents to produce a penny. Obviously, they're worth only 1 cent, so that's why they need to go away. But even though there's still pennies out there, a lot of them sitting around doing nothing in fountains type of a deal and whatnot. And that I do think some companies, to be honest with you, I think some companies are just using it to round a little bit into their favor instead of dealing with it. But obviously, pennies are still legal tender, but it's causing issues there for people not getting their exact change back. So Senator John Kavanaugh, he's a Fountain Hills Republican. If you don't know who he is, he's proposing putting into law what they're calling the quote Swedish rounding method. So if a final tab ends up with a 1, 2, or 6 or 7, that's going to determine where you get rounded to at that point, right? So if that's the case, 1, 2, 6, or 7, the bill is rounded down to the nearest nickel. So if a bill ending in 3, 4, 8, or 9, well, you'll be rounded up to the nearest nickel as well. So if it's 89 cents, it's going to go to 90, right? Basically how that works. Kavanaugh said the government intervention, complete with possible civil penalties, he says it's appropriate. Now, the big debate is for people, should the government even get involved in this, right? SB 1108 is set up so consumers who are not using cash do avoid the rounding. So it's not going to be for everybody, out there if you pay for it. So if you pay with a credit or debit card, you would pay the exact amount regardless of what it is. So that anything but cash would be that. Electric transfers, mobile payments, checks, you can still do the penny side of it. And I don't know, as a retailer, I don't know why you just don't round it anyway with taxes. Just round all your stuff so everything ends in a five. Not hard to do. So the proposal would require merchants to post a notice at the point of sale stating cash transactions are run to the nearest 5-cent increment pursuant to state law. So this is how far they're backing it here as well. So the other side of it is nothing actually requires retailers to accept pennies or deal with pennies. I couldn't believe there's no law on this. You don't have a retailer can say, we don't like quarters. We're not going to give you quarters. They can actually decide, yeah, there's no law saying they have to accept them as well, which is fascinating. I just assumed that would be out there, right, with how we use it, and that's not the case. What we're dealing with. So government here in the Arizona now, Arizona's not immune to this. This is actually a lot of legislature groups out there are pushing this, and a lot of business groups are part and backing this bill as well. Not just here in Arizona, but across the United States and things to that effect. And it'll go to the final sale amount. Not every item will get rounded. And so if your final bill is $258.92, they'll just do that. 92 cents will go down to 90 at that point. So do we need government interaction on that? Like I said, I would argue the restaurants or the stores should just get it in their computer system. Everything is priced at a quarter with taxes and stuff to that effect. But what do I know? I'm, I'm just here. I'm just a guy talking to you guys right now. Hey, we got final numbers here. Now, there's a caveat to this, but the Waste Management Phoenix Open just ended, and let's face it, drunken arrests are big money here in Arizona and in a lot of places. So, according to data from the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control, there's about 30% decrease on-site liquor-related arrests between 2025 and 2026 out at the open. That department specifically credits the reduction in drunken arrests on the premises. Keep that in mind. That's a very distinctive difference there. They attributed it to a collaborative enhanced liquor enforcement with Scottsdale Police and, of course, the tournament security staff that works it as well. Obviously, cracked down on over-serving, underage drinking the last couple years. The 48 arrests are ones processed specifically by the liquor department. They do not include arrests or citations made by Scottsdale Police and other agencies. We have to wait for those numbers still to come out, whether around the premises, on the premises, around the premises, or away from it as people are leaving. We have to wait for those numbers out there, but at least on property, drunken arrests were down this year as well for the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And then there's a company called Vera Mobility Corporation. I haven't heard of them either, so we looked it up. They're a provider of safe, smart, and connected mobility technology solutions, according to their website. This is where I find it interesting, and they do a lot of work across the country here, and it's going to continue. They finalized a new 5-year, $998 million contract. The New York City Department of Transportation, they're extending that contract out there. They are ready, and they're going to continue to manage New York City's automated enforcement camera programs. They have an option to extend for an additional 5-year term as well. So this includes red light speed cameras, bus lane enforcement systems, and then even the cameras used to enforce weight limits on the expressways, bridges or tunnels that they have to deal with. Vera Mobility has managed the city's automated enforcement programs as well since they were originally introduced more than 30 years ago. By the way, this is the largest network of its kind in New York as well for this company. This new contract was effective as of January 1st of this year. The previous contract between Vera Mobility and New York City DOT will have expired in December of 2025. And then, under this new contract, the number of red light camera locations are going to significantly increase in New York. And that's all because of legislation signed by their governor as well in 2025 as well. So, a big company here in Arizona making big waves, whether you agree with what they do or not, right? There's kind of controversy on that. But company here doing a lot of work here across the country in terms of the safety and things for New York City residents and the growing restrictions that New York City is putting on people. Well, at least one company here in the valley is taking complete advantage of that. And then finally, folks, it's breakfast time. You're leaving for work. Maybe you're getting ready to leave for work. Maybe you've already left. Maybe you work at home here. Keep this in mind. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th, right before Valentine's Day on Saturday. And Krispy Kreme, well, they want to not only, help you out on Valentine's Day, but they want to help you out for the bad luck holiday out there, of course, February 13th, Friday. Well, they're going to give a coupon giveaway tomorrow, Friday the 13th. Yes, go get a coupon there they're going to say they're going to give them away randomly in their stores. But my experience on that is they just give them to everybody, right, till they run out of them. But they're giving away coupons for 13,000 free original glazed donuts to randomly selected guests at participating shops. Yes. So now you're not going to get 13,000. They're giving away 13,000 total coming up. So original glazed dozen coupons is what they are calling it out there. Coupons will be given away, as I said, randomly to customers throughout the day, according to Krispy Kreme. This is tomorrow, Friday the 13th. Here's what they said in a statement. The 13,000 free dozens will be in the form of a coupon that guests can redeem with any purchase over 13 days beginning Sunday, February 15th. Yes. So go get your Valentine's Day donuts tomorrow. Get yourself a coupon. Be one of the lucky random people, as they say, and get your coupons for free donuts with the purchase later on as well. So our free gift to you today, to hit that up there and get your Krispy Kreme fix out there. And folks, appreciate you joining us here for this morning business show. Of course, McCollum on Business. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 o'clock here on Friday. Get you ready for the weekend, of course. 3-day weekend coming up here. We are off on Monday here due to the President's Day holiday. Markets being closed. So we'll get you ready for the 3-day weekend here tomorrow. Come and join us, would you, 11 o'clock. In the meantime, catch us on demand, share us with your friends, and stay tuned here if you're watching us live on Robat TV. The main event's coming up next, and if not, catch it main event later on demand as well on Robat, of course, YouTube as well, and the free podcasting systems out there. And don't forget, see, debut of the 2026 season of the Pit Stop is up for you right now. Looking forward to the Daytona 500 this weekend. Catch that as well. Robat TV, YouTube, podcast system. Just search the Pit Stop Talk there to find that. And appreciate you guys joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, 11 o'clock. McCollum on Business.